Today we are going to discuss hemp, what it is, its history, and how we got to where we are today. Hemp is an amazing plant that has an incredible amount of uses, from products like cosmetics to consumables, products like CBD oil, hemp oil, cannabis oil, and their flowers. There is also industrialized hemp, which throughout history and even today, items are made. Items like textiles for clothing, paper, an example being which the U.S. Declaration of Independence, just showing that America was at one time a hemp-based society. Also, through animal feeds and eventually biofuels. Hemp is considered to be within the family of cannabis sativa, though not all family members are alike. Hemp is required by U.S. law to have less than 0.3% THC. If it's more than that, it is not eligible to be considered hemp, in which case it must be disposed of. As we just heard, some of the history of hemp, industrial hemp has been used as far as we can tell anywhere from 10,000 BC to about 300 BC at its earliest times. It was mainly used to produce textiles, though it has been recorded to be a food source for less thriving regions. Medical hemp is a little different, as we have some records of it being used in ancient times as tea or other remedies. It was not until about 1839 when an Irish physician named William B. O'Shaughnessy published the first recorded study on the medicinal properties of hemp. Nearly 100 years later, an English chemist named Robert Kahn recorded the first partial structure of a cannabinoid, which later was named cannabinol or CBN. Recording the structure of a molecule would soon be named the study of stereochemistry. Around 1940s, an American chemist named Roger Adams was the first to isolate cannabidiol or CBD. His research also led to the discovery and isolation of THC. Within the year of 1963, Dr. Raphael Michelin first identified stereochemistry of CBD. Within 30 years prior, however, something had been brewing, and it was about to burst. Federal scrutiny had fallen over hemp and cannabis, and soon enough, to the government, there was little to no difference between them. In the mid-1930s, 35 states had adopted the Uniform State Narcotic Drug Act. A few years later, in 1937, the first national regulation came down, known as the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. In the next 23 years, federal judgment of the plant became greater and greater, until 1970, when all medical use of cannabis and hemp, including the study of, was banned by the Controlled Substance Act. 8 years later, Arizona passed a groundbreaking law that allowed the study of cannabis and hemp to continue. This act was called the 1987 Controlled Substances Therapeutic Research Act. It was during this time Arizona researchers performed the very first studies with CBD and epilepsy, which ended in huge success. Though, with the current stigma of cannabis within the nation, the study went unrecognized for far too long. In the mid-1980s, the first discovery was made about the endocannabinoid system in the body. A handful of studies following this. In 1996, California passed Prop 215, which allowed for the application of medical cannabis cards for patients. At this current time, the federal government still considered there to be no medicinal purposes in CBD and just fed it into the same category as other cannabinoids within marijuana, which was terrible. Even with Prop 215 passing, there seems to be little hope. This is until the single greatest person for medical hemp came into this world, and her name was Charlotte Figi. Charlotte was born on October 18, 2006, and no one realized it at the time, but her life, her struggles, and her condition, and the determination of loving parents, this would be the first turning point for CBD on a national and even in some cases international levels. Charlotte had a condition known as Dravet syndrome, which caused her to have around 300 grand mal seizures every week. Her parents never stopped fighting for her life. It was in 2012 when they found something that gave them incredible hope. They found a CBD hemp oil tincture which contained little to no THC. Within the first month of her using it, her seizures went from 300 a week to 2 to 3 a month. which, by the way, was about a 99% decrease. With people hearing about Charlotte's amazing results, she soon became the literal poster child for CBD, and the stigma started to fade for the first time in 70+ years. She was even the first child ever featured on the cover of High Times magazine. Though still, the FDA bundled CBD in with all the other cannabinoids and claimed no medical properties to it. It was still a Schedule I drug. Though soon after seeing Charlotte's story, within a year people's ideas started to change. The studies of CBD, CBN, CBG, and CBC had increased tenfold from previous years. Even in June 2018, the FDA had released their first ever approved drug for Dravet syndrome, which of course was CBD based. Other states started to follow in California's 1996 lead to legalization of the medical cannabis and hemp. Finally, on December 20th, 2018, 5 days before Christmas, the hemp farming bill passed. This bill states that all cannabis, hemp, less than 0.3% THC would be removed from being a Schedule I drug. With this bill passed, it would let farmers grow hemp that was federally legal. This also allowed companies to extract CBD from hemp. CBD extracted from hemp has little to no trace of THC in it, making it under the 0.3% threshold, while CBD extracted from marijuana still has a chance of having the THC higher than the allowed threshold. Is CBD addictive? Well, at one point they would have told us so, because they considered it all to be the same. However, throughout many studies, it is shown to have no addictive qualities. In fact, it is quite the opposite. CBD may actually be an exit substance for those who are addicted to painkillers. With there being so much progress that has happened in the last 30 years, we still have a long way to go. There are still people that hold on to what they believe, which is the idea that hemp holds no value. It is up to us to change that stigma, leading with empirical data and the understanding that ideas take time to change. We as a whole can make a difference within the community every day to bring information to those who are curious, for the common goal of sharing knowledge and leading to a brighter future that many never thought was possible.